What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Surfing the Stream, where every week we are on a quest to find out what is the greatest movie of all time. I'm here to review Boy Kills World. It's a movie that I feel like most people are either going to like or don't like. There's not going to be a real in-between. You're not going to be on the fence with this one. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the stylized action and humor in this movie. And I'll kind of jump into that in just a second. So going into this movie, I knew barely anything about it at all. Okay, I'm trying to do that more with the movies that I watch because expectations really affect your viewing, and I didn't know anything about a voiceover, narration, or anything like that. So Bill Skarsgård plays a mute and a deaf boy, and in this like dystopian future. So he doesn't ever really speak in the film to any of the characters. This is all like in his head, like inner monologues and stuff like that, which adds a uniqueness to the movie for sure. And in the first like 10 minutes of this movie, wasn't really sure that I was going to like this movie because of the voiceover. I felt like it was too much. I felt like the comedy was just a little off. I felt like they were trying too hard with it. But then once you start getting, and I'm going to put air quotes around this, you start getting attached to the character of the boy and all the other characters. I think that's when the movie really starts finding its footing. It's probably about 10 to 15 minutes in. I really enjoyed the voiceover and the narration throughout the entire movie from that point forward. And it just injects a good amount of humor into the stylized action sequences. And I think that just brings a little bit of a uniqueness to the movie. And also, it's kind of funny sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and say that all the jokes land because they don't. But it's when I say this, it's going to sound like a negative, but I don't want it to sound like a negative. It kind of reminds me of the inter-battle comedy with Marvel movies, but I feel like this is done better for sure. So don't take that as a negative. I feel like it's done better in this movie with the inter-battle dialogues that are coming on. The action sequences are absolutely fantastic. It's nice to see great fight choreography, and I'm looking at you over there, the Roadhouse, with your terrible CGI action sequences. No, the action sequences in this movie are actually really, really good. I think sometimes it kind of gets exhausting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just seeing another fight. But they do inject some of that humor in there to kind of keep you invested in the story. Think John Wick meets The Raid meets Silent Night. So you get more of the humor and outlandish action from Silent Night. You get John Wick fight choreography, not necessarily to the heights of John Wick by any means. John Wick is the GOAT. But then you also get The Raid, where it feels like it's just going from point A to point B to point C, and it's just moving at a rapid pace. So, like I said, the action sequences are great. They're gruesome. It's right there at the line of kind of being over exaggerated a little bit with the deaths and the blood and stuff like that. But it's fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed that aspect of it. As far as the story goes, I think the story is interesting enough. It's not anything that we really haven't seen before in terms of a story with a dystopian future and dictator does something to this boy and yada yada yada. I mean, it's a story that you've heard and seen before. Okay, so the story is fine. It's enough there to really keep those action sequences and keeping the overall movie moving forward. And the boy actually has a character arc throughout the entire movie, and I was kind of surprised by that. And like, his story is good enough, his character is good enough, especially with the inner monologues, to keep you invested in this movie. One thing I will say against this movie, and it's probably one of my biggest issues, at probably about the hour mark maybe, it goes from this stylized action dark comedy, and it's just like the inner monologues just kind of stop. Like they keep going, but the comedy of it just almost ceases, to be honest with you. And I wish they would have kept that tone to the very end. And I get it, you have the character arc trying to come full circle towards the back end of the movie, and that's fine, but it feels like they just kicked the comedy to the side altogether. And it just like it becomes overly serious towards the end. And I wish they would have just kept going with that dark comedy humor on the back end of the action sequences. I think the movie just would have been so much better. I mean, you're looking at going from 3 stars to 4 stars if they would just keep that consistent tone to the end. And the side characters are pretty good when they're first introduced. Like, you're kind of like interested and intrigued by them and you want more of them. And then they just cast them to the side and just kind of forget about them. And that's another one of my huge issues with the movie, because there's 2 side characters, like a team that the boy joins, and it's like they show up and it's like, okay, all right, I'm digging this, and then they just forget about them. And I wish they had more of the side characters in this more, and I feel like the movie would just been so much better. It would have been so much more engaging, and you could have also broken up those action sequences a little bit by throwing in some of those character moments with the side characters. But overall, guys, I feel like this movie is absolutely worth a watch. I bought it for $10, and I'm not mad at it. It was a fun and entertaining movie from beginning to end. So let me know in the comments below if you have seen Boy Kills World, and I will catch y'all next time on another review. Laters.